this stream, but if anybody's watching now, feel free to skip ahead a minute or two, and we'll be off and running. It's pretty simple. Today is the first start, sit, help stream of the 2023 season. Live AMA, taking all start, sit related questions. How it works is in the description, but I will reiterate it. I'll mention it a couple of times. Members get priority first and foremost, and they will be shouted out by username so that they're fully aware that they are who I am talking to. I'll get to the general public as much as possible, but please be patient. I'm going to answer members first, and then all other questions in the order that I see them. And then the only other thing is context. Context. As much as you can provide. The more I know about your situation, the easier it's going to be for me to give you the best answer that you are likely looking for. Is it SuperFlex? Is it full PPR scoring? Do you start 3 receivers? Give me as much information to work with as possible. All right. Should be good to go. Should be good to go. I'm just going to let my Discord know, and we'll be off and running. Maybe I should post how it's going to work as a pinned comment in the chat as well. That might be something I look to do. Just so that people have a little bit more eyes on how exactly this is going to work. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it. From the description, and it's going to be it's too many characters. All right. I'll just keep reiterating it as many times as I need to. For those who are new to this, welcome. For those who have been with us for a couple of years for this, hopefully we can help you guys again, or hopefully I can help you guys again. First start sit stream of the year. We will be doing this. I will be doing this. I keep saying we. I will be doing this every Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, every Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Several weeks will be omitted from that, but for the most part, here and available for you guys to help out with start sit decisions that you need to make for your lineup. Already said it while I was setting this stream up. I'm going to reiterate it again. And several times throughout the stream. Here's how it works. First and foremost, members get priority, and they will be shouted out by a username. If you are a member, you will get those little added benefits, so you're aware that I'm addressing your question specifically. I'll get to the general public as much as possible. I already see a question or two in here, so those will be answered. Context. As much context as you guys can give me. Is it SuperFlex? Is it PPR scoring? Do you start 3 receivers? Give me as much information about your starting lineup and your scoring settings as possible. and I'll be able to give you the best answer that I can ultimately come up with as it pertains to your situation. Please be patient. They will start to add up. Most likely, the questions will start to accumulate. So I just ask for patience. I will get to the members first as I see them, and then all other questions in the order that I see those. Couple news and notes. I already put a short out yesterday about Darren Waller. If anybody is between Darren Waller and other options at tight end, you probably want to seriously consider pivoting. Somebody, if you want to wait on Waller, I understand. Grab Jake Ferguson, grab Ty Conklin, grab one of those guys just to protect yourself. On Monday night, it was just reported that Breece Hall's been slapped with the questionable tag. If you don't have any other obvious choices at running back, you probably just got to fire up Breece Hall. But if you do, I would move off of Breece. This is probably going to be a game where the Jets ease him in. Dalvin Cook is, I would imagine, handles the majority of the backfield touches, snaps and touches to Monday night for the Jets against the Bills. Breece might work in. The fact that he's been slapped with the questionable tag tells me that he's going to play, but his floor is his ceiling is lower than it usually is. He's going to have to come through on limited touches. So just a couple of pieces there. Those are the most recent things I feel like that have happened. There are other injuries that are ongoing. I can bring those up as this develops. Whether it's Terry McLaurin or Jerry Jeudy, there are others. We'll address those on a case-by-case basis, but let's go ahead and get into it. I see questions piling up in the chat. So now's the time. What's going on, Jay? G-Soccer, I see your question. Mario, Jacob, what's going on, everybody? I see your question. I'm going to get to Jay first. What's going on, Jay? Jay is a member of the channel. Much appreciated. I will get to the members first. Everybody else second, so please be patient. What do we got going on here, Jay? First of all, how's cross country season going? If that's still a thing for you. It's not for me. Between your flex options, well, you're starting Wilson, you know that. You're starting Waddle, you're starting Smith. This is a loaded offense. Is it start 3 receiver? It's 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 flex in full PPR. I mean, I would start Pollard. I would probably start. You have to start Pollard. You have to, and I would start. Man, those are 4 wide receiver 1s. I would start the 3 receivers in the order that you drafted them. If you drafted Garrett Wilson, Jalen Waddle, and Devontae Smith 1, 2, 3, I guess I would just roll the dice with that. Olave is all 4 of those dudes need to be in starting lineups every single week. You may want to look to use one of those wide receivers to package with one of your running backs and get like one of the dominant running backs in the league. This is a loaded roster, man. You're going to have people go off on your bench, just FYI. I guess, I mean, Wilson, you have to. Pollard, you have to. Well, Jawan, you have to because you have Kelsey. I guess I would go Pollard. I would probably go Kenneth Walker, and I would go Wilson, Waddle, Devontae Smith if that's the order you drafted those receivers in. If you drafted Olave over Devontae Smith, then start Olave instead. This is a loaded roster. You kind of can't go wrong, but along that same line of thinking, that same wavelength, you're going to have dudes go off on your bench. That's just the nature of the beast. Hope that helps. If you need any more clarity on anything, let me know. G-Soccer, 1 at flex between Breece, Sutton, Deion Jackson, or Dotson. I would start Jahan Dotson of that group. Terry McLaurin's coming in with mild turf toe. Sounds like the vibes are good. Sounds like the injury was minor. Turf toe is one of those injuries, though, that you hear and you automatically think to yourself, that shit lingers, right? So will Terry be a little bit more limited than usual? I'm not predicting he will be, but I'm just posing the question to you guys. Will he be a little bit more limited than usual? First game of the season against, let's call a spade, an inferior opponent. Arizona is going to be an inferior opponent in 17 games this year. Sorry, Cardinals fans. That's the reality of the situation. even a team like Washington, who most people probably have projected middle of the pack as far as like finish on the season, should be easily able to handle the Arizona Cardinals at home. Do they need Terry McLaurin to the point where they can maybe like take their foot off the gas and as far as how much they use him in a game where they probably want to see how he does in his first game action with the turf toe? Dotson could absolutely operate as the wide receiver 1 for Washington on Sunday. Not saying it's a guarantee, but the vibes are good with Jahan Dotson. He's healthy. He's between the two of them. He's the healthy one. This is a smash spot. Arizona is full on tank job this year, and they don't care who knows about it. Their best defensive back from last season is out. He's gone. He's moved on. I think it was Byron Murphy. He left. Dotson of that group. As far as like default scoring, it's all yeah, I mean, I assume half PPR is default scoring. That's what I assume. Jacob, yeah, Waller should play. I would grab Conklin. I would grab a Jake Ferguson in that same exact game. I don't know that. I mean, you could grab Bellinger. Bellinger flashed a little bit as a rookie. You could just go that route. This is a scenario where you could do that. Jake Ferguson is also a guy that I am, tentatively intrigued by as far as a streamer if Waller is ruled out. Nice, Jay. Good to see you race this weekend. Good to see it. Appreciate that. I gotta stop telling myself like I'm retired. I'm a washed up runner. But I've been bad, admittedly. What's going on, Kevin? Start 2 between Brees, Tank Bigsby, and Deion Jackson. Deion Jackson. I mean, Zach Moss is doubtful. Jonathan Taylor is on the PUP list. It's Deion and Evan Hall. I got to imagine that for this game, at least, Deion Jackson gets first crack at opportunities. Zach Moss is not going to play. And then I'm tempted to tell you, Kevin, just to start Tank Bigsby because Brees vibes are mildly shaky right now. But I do think that's too far of a drop off for me to suggest. Like I can't do Tank Bigsby over Brees Hall just yet. We are expecting a floor game from Brees. I don't think I can move. I don't think I can pivot off of Brees to the point where Tank Bigsby is my play. Deion and Brees. It is a floor play, Kevin, for Brees, but I mean, Tank Bigsby is just like, he's just a little too far out of that range of where I feel comfortable actually telling you, like, yeah, swerve off Brees for Tank Bigsby. I can't bring myself to do that. It could be the right call. The Jets might only give Brees the ball like 7 or 8 times Monday night. But Tank Bigsby's a pretty big drop off, at least on paper right now. AJ Dillon or Miles Sanders? I guess Sanders. I mean, I guess Sanders. He's at least going to be the starter. Deion Jackson or Dalvin Cook? Deion's going to be the starter. He has PPR upside. If it's PPR scoring, Deion's got some upside, but I expect Cook to lead the Jets backfield at least for this week, for week 1. So tentatively Cook. I'm going to just drop a note in the chat so that you guys are aware. I'm just going to go ahead and pin this guy. All right. So I just wanted to make sure that that was up there as like a template for you guys, and something that can help me out as far as the best answer I can give you guys. I don't want to fall too far down the rabbit hole where I start answering these and I don't, I get away from like that thought process. A little bit more context helps if you guys can provide it. Straight up, though, I would, between Deion Jackson and Dalvin Cook, tentatively Dalvin Cook. Better offense. Someone to flex between Jamal Williams, Elijah Moore, Khalil Herbert, or Van Jefferson. It's full PPR. You drafted Jamal Williams to start him in the games that Alvin Kamara is out. I think that's the guy you have to rock with, especially considering Khalil Herbert's probably not going to play. Like, Jamal Williams is going to get all of the work for the New Orleans Saints at home against the Titans. It's not a good matchup. Tennessee was really good against the run on defense last year. So it's not a great matchup on paper, but at home, he should get all the work. I think this is why you drafted Jamal Williams, to use him weeks 1 to 3. I think that's got to be the play. I think that's the play. Scallops over steak. Scallops over steak. Not all the time. Not all the time. But in this instance, I'm going with the fish. Tweet from Shefty that the Vikings all-pro wide receiver Justin Jefferson not expected to sign a contract extension before kickoff. That's fine. He'll get paid. That was another thing that was in the news as far as wide receivers not getting paid. T. Higgins and the Cincinnati Bengals did not come to any type of agreement on an extension. So Higgins is likely to, at this point, playing the season without one. There's been speculation that the team, as you know, strictly because of having to save cap and dollars following the Joe Burrow extension, there's rumors that they could be moving on from T. Higgins after this season. If they can find a way to make it work where they're able to retain T. Higgins while also being able to have the space to retain Jamar Chase when that day comes, they'll of course do it, but it might not make financial sense for them to go that route. So it could be T. Higgins' last season in Cincinnati. You have DJ Moore, Amon-Ra, Watson, Godwin, and Judy. I mean, you have that. I mean, you should have that in you might have that in DJ Moore. You probably should have that in DJ Moore. I wouldn't trade. I wouldn't worry about that. And Montgomery just got 21 carries just on Thursday night. I mean, I know Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get more involved as the season goes on. But this is a good Lions team with a really, really good offensive line. I would not trade David Montgomery. DJ Moore and David Montgomery at this point right now, I don't even know if I would settle for like DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel, or even somebody like T. Higgins in that deal. I wouldn't move those guys. What for? I mean, what for? What's the rush to I'm not selling high on Montgomery. I'm keeping Montgomery. Jahmyr Gibbs will mix in more this season. There's no question, and he looked better, but they're going to use Montgomery this year. They didn't pay him. They didn't pay him for nothing, you know. Your running backs are do nothing. You're fine. You're good. You want to keep running back depth. That's fine. If he's putting up good points on the bench, then let him put up good points on the bench. That's running back depth that you're not going to be able to replace. No, I would do nothing. I would save that. I would save him. Saquon and Bijan you're expecting those guys to be incredible, to be RB1s, but you want insurance policies on your running backs more so than your wide receivers. You want good running backs putting up good points on your bench. That means you're protected in the event of an injury. Yeah. Full PPR, Bateman, Juju, or Charbonnet. Sorry you lost in the playoffs, but happy we're able to help you get there. Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, you know. It's like you put a really good team together, you have a down where, you know, either you maybe don't have your best week at the wrong time or somebody goes nuclear at the wrong time against you. It's just like, you know, it is what it is. Bateman, Juju, or Charbonnet? Bateman's real interesting this week, actually, because Mark Andrews is coming into this game less than 100%, and Odell Beckham was added to the injury report on Thursday, I believe. Odell was a late add to the injury report. What's the latest on Odell Beckham, actually? I'm going to look that up right now. Because okay, it doesn't look like he has an injury designation. Cleared to play. Practiced in full on Friday. Removed from the injury report. All right, so maybe Thursday was like a maintenance day for Odell Beckham. That's probably what it was. I would roll the dice probably on Charbonnet here. Bateman's interesting and should have a little bit more involvement and opportunity. If Mark Andrews is limited. But he's still a bit of a question mark. How are targets going to shake out here now that the team has added Odell and Zay Flowers? I think Charbonnet is the move here. Kenneth Walker is cleared to play. He's going to play against the Rams, but also he was on the injury report again with a groin injury. It appears that it's like not enough. It's not enough to keep him out. Walker did play through a lot of injury designations last season. It looks like he's going to do it again in week 1 of this season. But he's on the injury report yet again. Also, Seattle is, I think, decidedly notably better than the Rams, especially with them being without Cooper Kupp. I mean, if they're handling this game in the second half, the running backs are going to get more involved. Like Charbonnet is going to get work. He should see enough opportunities to be relevant tomorrow. I would probably go Charbonnet. Bateman is a big time upside play, but I want to see how targets shake out in Baltimore before I declare starting, you know, Rashad Bateman in a flex conversation. You know, is he going to be behind Zay Flowers? Is he going to be behind Odell? Is even a limited Mark Andrews gonna out target him? Big interception in the Miami game. That's a big swing. Texas A&M had the ball down 8, 7 minutes in the third. They pick it off. That's a big momentum swing. There you go. I would probably go Charbonnet. Freiermuth or Higbee? Higbee. I would go Higbee. I would absolutely go Higbee. I mean, he might get 15 targets. There's no Cooper Kupp. Van Jefferson's the wide receiver one. Yeah, Higbee. Absolutely over Freiermuth. Yeah, Higbee. Uh, Baltimore or Washington defense? I am streaming Washington quite literally everywhere. Whether I am happy or sad that going into week 2 might literally lean on how well the Washington defense is able to do against a team that is going to start a quarterback who got there 2 weeks ago. Baltimore is enticing. They're at home. They're playing an inferior opponent. They should be fine. They should be fine. I'm firing up Washington. They will not have Chase Young, so they're going to be out without probably their best player along the defensive line, but they're pretty deep. They're pretty deep at that position in Washington. At home, you can tell the vibes are like they're good around Washington right now. I'm just like talking intangibles. Like it's their home opener. Take this with a grain of salt, but like I am a believer in like off-field stuff in this regard. I think the vibe around the Washington team is different because Daniel Snyder is no longer the owner. The fans are more excited. The stadium is sold out. Washington tweeted that out like, I don't know, a week ago or so. The Twitter X account for the Washington Commanders posted that the game was fully sold out. That is news in Washington. I just think there's going to be a huge home field advantage for Washington tomorrow. Not that there won't be in Baltimore, but I think there's just like a sigh of relief element to this home opener for Washington, at least just this year. I got to imagine like on top of, they should win tomorrow no matter what. They're playing an inferior opponent in Arizona. It's going to send the stadium into excitement. They're going to be excited to be celebrating a win, and they might dominate Arizona if things unravel for them. And right now, if you had to stake your money on one team unraveling tomorrow at some point, most of us would probably put it on Arizona within like the third quarter or so. Bad turnover or the center snaps the ball over the quarterback's head and Washington gets it and runs it back. I'm painting a very specific picture here, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I feel like there's going to be a different energy in Washington tomorrow. And I think the defense specifically feeds off that against an offense that they should handle because Arizona doesn't have a quarterback. I'm saying that for all y'all, actually. If you like drafted the Jets, don't start the Jets. I get why you drafted them because they're expected to be one of the better defenses this year. Don't freaking start them against the Bills. I'm all in on Washington. If I am wrong about Washington, at least having a they get the job done type of game, like 10 default scoring defense points against Arizona, I feel like it's just a safe bet to make that they shouldn't give up too much offensive production against Arizona tomorrow. If Arizona gets 3 touchdowns, Washington should go right back to being like sad about their team. That's how inept I think Arizona's offense is going to be this year. Baltimore's in a good spot. I'm starting Washington. Yeah, so G Soccer, I just need more context. Do you start 3 receivers or two receivers? And I don't know if I see if you wrote if it's full PPR or not. But I mean, Pollard is a lock. Tyreek Hill is a lock. Chris Olave is a lock. I think Dotson is in a good spot. I would start Dotson. I wouldn't start Breece. I wouldn't start Breece Hall if you can fire up guys like Pollard, Dobbins as your running backs. That's exactly what I would do. Pollard, Dobbins, Hill, Olave, and then I guess Dotson in the Dotson. And then if you start 3 receivers, then you can play Godwin or Dotson in the flex. It doesn't matter. Actually, put Tyreek Hill in the flex because he plays in the 4:30 window, and I always just like keeping my flex as open as it possibly can be. And what I mean by that is if I have a player going Monday night, I'm putting that player in my flex. If my latest player that plays for me plays on Sunday Night Football, I put that player in my flex. Football's weird. Random stuff happens between game time, between like practice and kickoff. Weird shit happens, right? Players get added to the injury report on the weekend. It happens in practice. Somebody just like a freak thing happens. Move your early players up as high as you can. Put your later players in your flex spots. You protect yourself as much as possible. But yeah, Pollard, Dobbins, Olave, and Dotson if you start 2 receivers, and Tyreek in your flex. Add Godwin in there if you start a 3rd receiver. Jay, Olave and Pierce, a good running back to target. I mean, yeah, the best ones. You're giving up a guy, a wide receiver with wide receiver 1 upside and a running back with top 15 upside and Dameon Pierce. I mean, the best ones. Pollard, Eckler, Saquon, Chubb, like those guys. Olave has wide receiver 1 upside. Dameon Pierce has running back 1 upside and probably a floor of 20. Floor. One of the best ones that you should be targeting. One of the best ones. Yes. If you have Cooper Kupp, you're not going to get any good offers. Someone is going to try to sell you like, I'm doing you a favor. I'm giving you like a playable piece for Cooper Kupp. And it's going to be like friggin', I don't even know. It's going to be Michael Thomas. And it's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Like I will eat the fact that I don't have him now. And I will hope for the best, even though it doesn't feel great. You are selling him for pennies right now. Just keep him on IR if you have the IR spot. You have the IR spot. Daniel, I'll check the Discord after the stream. She'll be able to help out. But I got to keep it here with the start sit questions for now. But I will check the Discord tonight. If you're not in the Discord, for anybody who's new here, first of all, welcome. I do this every Saturday and every Sunday. I will be live tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern before the slate for any last minute help. But there is a Discord as well. Second link in the description of this video. It is free to join. Members will get added attention and will get a little bit more detail from me in their questions, but it is free to join for anybody who might be interested. If you are okay, I'm not worried about like if you've got running backs out week 7, let's worry about that week 7. Don't worry about that. There's no need to make trades right now. We'll worry about that in week 6. How about that? We'll worry about it in week 6. I mean, Raheem Mostert's a guy you want now, not in week 7. We don't know what Jeff Wilson's going to be back. No, I'm not worried about that right now. I would do nothing. Don't make that trade. We'll worry about week 7 when it's week 6. Come back to me then with that. Stay put. You're good. the Jets or the Bengals defense week 1. Is Washington available? If they're not, then I guess the Bengals. I'm not playing. I mean, I know that the Jets are at home, right? They're at home on Monday night. I mean, yeah, they could do something. They might make a big play here and there, but like, do I really want to gamble against Josh Allen? Not really. Does he do the Jets do the Jets come out on fire and they're getting to him and you know, they're picking up sacks. They turn him over a couple of times. I mean, it's Josh Allen we're talking about. I don't know if I want to roll those dice. I don't know if I want to play that game. I guess Cincinnati, but my def is like Washington. I want to play Washington. Yeah. If the Washington defense is available and you're between options like the Jets, like go pick up Washington. If they're not available, then I guess Cincinnati. I guess. I don't feel as good about that either, but I guess I feel better about it than the Jets having to play Josh Allen. Cooks or Deontay? I mean, Deontay. Deontay. I mean, yes, Cooks is a dude that can catch a bomb. Dude, Cooks can be a deep threat that hits a big play for you. But Deontay should be the Steelers. I mean, I still think he is the Steelers' number 1 option at receiver. I mean, Pickens is a 1B, but I do think Deontay is the 1A. The number of targets that he received last year supports that. I would play Deontay over Cooks. Like, I mean, Cooks should be the number 2 option, but he's clearly behind CeeDee Lamb. I'll take Deontay. Just checking to see if there's any new injury ads. I don't think so. Oh, this was another transaction that I do think has a little bit of significance potentially. The Broncos did elevate Philip Dorsett and Lil Jordan Humphrey to their active roster tomorrow. If it was one receiver, I wouldn't be too worried. The fact that it's 2 receivers makes me think Jerry Jeudy is going to be on a pretty severe pitch count. Not a guy I'm looking to start tomorrow. And I will say that goes double for Javonte Williams. If anybody's locked Javonte into their starting lineup, I would give that a little bit of pause, to be completely honest with you. I love Javonte Williams. I drafted him in my home league. I'm not starting him tomorrow. His comeback has been miraculous. It's been spectacular. Let's see him week 1 first, because he's probably going to be in a 50-50 or 55-45 committee with Samaje Perine. I'm very excited for Javonte's what feels like a legit comeback this year, which was something I was not expecting for him, given the severity of the injury. But I'm still the vibes have been spectacular with him, but I'm still going to operate with some caution, some pause, at least week 1. Not firing up Javonte Williams. It's kind of like the Breece Hall scenario. If you have absolutely no better options, like if you're looking down your bench and you're just like, holy crap, my RB4 is Tajay Spears, then yeah, you have to play Javonte. But I mean, if you have any other viable option, I would pivot. Just wanted to throw that out there. Oh, I almost missed this one. I mean, if you have all Eagles, that's fine. It's fine to have a ton of stuff on the same team if it's a good team. It's a team that you expect to be talented, expect to be good. The Hurts Brown stack should be a strong one. Should be one of the better ones in the league. We'll see about their defense. They might take a step back a little bit, but they did add a ton of talent in the draft. So they should be good. It is tough for them. It's tough against any opponent starting on the road. So maybe temper expectations a little bit tomorrow, but also New England's offense isn't, on paper, it's not exactly the scariest in the NFL. So I guess they should be fine. But it is tough. It is tough to start on the road. I think this was from Graham Barfield. Since 2020, over the past like 3 or 4 seasons, the favorite wins or covers the spread 48% of the time. In week 1, it's only 41% of the time. So week 1 is weird. Starting on the road is tough, even for good teams. The Eagles should be fine. They'll be all right. In 2 flex, I mean, you started Gibbs. You're obviously starting Chubb. You're starting Diggs. You're starting DJ Moore. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think you have it right. You have it right. Chubb, Gibbs, Diggs, Allen, DJ Moore. You have it correct. I would say you have the correct guys in there. Yeah, you have the right guys in there. I'm looking at the question, and I do have a Discord open for anybody who wants to hop in there as well for the duration of the season. It is a way to answer or ask questions if you're not able to make the streams, the weekend streams that I will be holding, all off season long. Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern. So just before the slate. Give you guys like basically right up to kickoff or as close to kickoff as possible. If there is any last minute help required. Daniel, if you're still in here, I can't answer. I mean, not trying to be rude or anything. You're asking kind of an impossible question. Like, we don't know who's going to, there's no way to predict who's going to do what tomorrow. As far as like a prediction or a projection, I don't think we can pay attention to those numbers. We can't focus on that. Like, we have to just wait and see what happens and what plays out on the field. You could look like you're sitting in great shape. Like, let's say after the early games, you have a huge lead, you're feeling good. But then, in the late games, your opponent blows up and everybody goes nuts. Like, you never know what's going to happen, or vice versa. So we'll see. We want to get those wins. We want to get those, we obviously want to start off 1-0. Everybody wants to start off 1-0, get their fantasy season off to the start that we've been preparing for and planning for, right? It'll be determined on the field, At the end of the day, we can look and chart and project. But it's a tough call to make as far as like, actually seeing through a victory. Yeah, I mean, never knew who will pop off. I think I had a game. I had a matchup one time where I think like it was one of those matchups where we were both teams were done at the end of the afternoon slate, at the end, like in the 425 window, like our whole both teams, everybody went, and I think I had like a 22 or 23 point lead, and things were winding down, and I was like, all right, this is looking really good. I think I'll be able to handle this. And then in like the last like 2 minutes of the game, if there's any Steelers fans out there who remember this, by all means, provide more detail. But I think like in the like it was a very small window of time. Martavis Bryant caught like 2 90+ yard bombs for scores that gave the guy 1,000,000 points, and he leapfrogged me in the, like with seconds to go on the clock for our matchup by like 4 or 5 points. And it was just like, are you kidding? Like it was rough. It was like you think you have it, and then in the final seconds, it's just gone. In the most like unexpected outcome that could have played out. You never know, right? Sometimes the cookie crumbles your way, sometimes it doesn't, and it's just like the weirdest shit happens as a result on your way getting there. It hurts. Yeah, it hurts. But yeah, Mike Evans last year didn't do shit all season after like week 1 or week 2. And then goes off for a 3 tutty day with a monster performance. Anybody that got to championship week in spite of Mike Evans and fired Mike Evans up just for, because they felt like it was the right move to keep going back to the well, were rewarded. If you benched him, you probably hate Mike Evans. Michael Thomas is a start in deep leagues, not in leagues where your option, Stephon Diggs, obviously no. DJ Moore, obviously no. And I would say, yeah, Keenan Allen, obviously no. No, it's Michael Thomas is only a start in 16-team leagues that start 2 flex players. That's where he's a start. And that's not to say that he's a drop, but there's no way you can fire him up with any confidence right now. We have to wait and see on him. I know he popped off in the opener last year, but then it was, I think, for the most part, a relatively quiet few weeks before he was lost for the season again. What was it, like week 6, week 7? No, you have the guys over him. You have multiple guys over him that you have to fire up. Mostert or Terry McLaurin? For me, it's Mostert. There's no Jeff Wilson. There is Devon Achane. He's going to play. But Mostert should see most of the work for this backfield, at least for week 1. I think Achane is going to be worked in. He's going to be eased in week over week. I think we're going to see like we'll see a snippet of Achane tomorrow. We'll see a small portion of Achane tomorrow, but I don't think they're going to give more than a fraction of the work to him. Like maybe he sees 10 touches. Mostert should see the lion's share of work tomorrow. Terry is dealing with a mild form of turf toe. Right? That's the other thing. Terry's dealing with a mild form of turf toe. The vibes have been good. Apparently, it's not as serious as other times that you hear about a player suffering turf toe. I would go Mostert here. Teams are going to lean on their veterans. The only rookie who I expect to, put in work tomorrow is Bijan. He was drafted to be the dude, 8th overall, for the Falcons in a situation where, I mean, Tyler Algier, that's a big drop off. No disrespect from a talent perspective. Bijan will get fed. Gibbs is going to Gibbs got worked in. We have really high hopes for Gibbs moving forward. He looked great with the touches he received, but if the 12th overall pick is going to get worked in, then the 3rd round pick is going to get easily eased in as well. Mostert, who is at least right now healthy. Terry, the vibes are good. I like Terry McLaurin. I was gutted when I heard turf toe, and then I had a little bit more optimism when the reports continued to come out that it was a milder form of turf toe. Still, that shit lingers and it hurts, and I don't know what the severity of it is, and it's one of those things where it just needs time to heal. Weeks, basically. It sounds like it's milder than average or than usual, which is great. But I would be proceeding with a little bit of caution with Terry McLaurin this week. If there's a big drop off of talent level of your wide receivers, then sure, fire up Terry. But if you've got other guys where you're looking at him and it's just like, I drafted this dude in like the 7th or 8th round, and I have some expectations of him. Those guys, that's like the cutoff for me of where you might want to consider like putting Terry on the bench. In this situation, you have a guy in Raheem Mostert who should give you RB2 potential. Mostert. Van Jefferson or Khalil Herbert? Herbert. He's the starter. At least from the vibes of the offseason and the preseason. I know they drafted Roschon Johnson. I know they signed Donta Foreman, but what we can only go off of right now is what we saw in the preseason. And when Justin Fields was on the field, so was Khalil Herbert. Van Jefferson is trendy. He's interesting. He's certainly got short-term appeal. He's got wide receiver 3 upside. I don't even want to say he has wide receiver 2 upside. He maybe finishes Van Jefferson as like a low end wide receiver 2. Wide receiver 3 is more likely. Khalil Herbert has RB2 upside. I'll take that. If it's full PPR or half PPR, also, for me, it's like still Khalil Herbert. Yeah, I would go Khalil Herbert there. What's going on, everybody? I see all y'all I see your questions in the chat. Just one more time, if you could, as much context that you can provide helps if it's a start sit question. Do you start 3 receivers instead of 2? That's a really important element sometimes. So let me know. But welcome in. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. I will be live again as well, 11 a.m. tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern, leading up to the slate for the early window. So I can provide some help then as well if you're still on the fence between a couple options or not. Yeah, right on the nose. Rookie running backs, that unless you're Bijan Robinson, you're gonna get worked in progressively, like as the weeks progress. Jimmy G, Love, or Baker? Probably, I want to say Love, but he's out. He's down Christian Watson. It's a tough call, actually. I would want to say Love if he had Christian Watson. Plus, Romeo Doubs is questionable with a hamstring injury. So this might not be the week you want to fire up Love. Jimmy has Devontae Adams. Baker has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I guess Jimmy G, between the two, but who's better, Jimmy G or Baker? Do we have to give the nod to Jimmy? Do we have to? I mean, you might just want to roll with who you think is the best quarterback of between, I would say not Love because he's down Christian Watson and he's probably going to have, you know, a 50%, hopefully, like Romeo Doubs. I mean, he might be, his top guys tomorrow might be Jaden Reed and Luke Musgrave, and both of those guys are rookies. And, you know, outside of, you know, dump offs to Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, it might be, you know, the numbers might be on the lower end for Love tomorrow. I would say whoever you think is the better quarterback between Jimmy Garoppolo and Baker Mayfield. I guess it might be Jimmy. At least he has Devontae Adams to throw the football to. I know Baker has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, but Devontae is, at least for another year, I mean, he's multiple tiers ahead of both of those guys, as good as they both are. I guess Jimmy. The Raiders' offensive line is middle of the pack. The Bucs' offensive line should be decent. They still have Tristan Wirfs and they still have Ryan Jensen. So I'm just thinking about, like, you know, protection potential for those quarterbacks. I would say the Bucs have the slightly better offensive line. Still probably go Jimmy. As far as trades, any type of trades, unless it's like blatantly obvious, guys, I'm not one of those people who likes to make trades before we've even seen the games kick off. Like, you drafted these guys for a reason. Let them play out. Let things play out. Like Breece Hall and Chris Olave, keep those dudes. You're probably gonna have to be patient with Breece, but I mean, a healthy Breece Hall in 10 and 12 team redraft leagues, a Breece Hall that finishes the season healthy, is a first round pick. He's a first round pick. He was catching fire before the injury last year. Just Olave's got wide receiver 1 upside. Breece Hall's got running back 1 upside once he, you know, as he moves away from this ACL injury. I would keep those guys. I'm not somebody who likes to make, for better or worse, I don't like making trades week 1. I don't like making trades week 1. That's just me. I'm always going to, if you have a trade question for me now, I'm always going to opt for, no, don't take it. Don't take it. Stay put. Stay, like, you drafted these dudes. You just drafted these guys like a week ago or 10 days ago. Let's see what they do. Those are 2 guys specifically I don't want to move on from. Pick 2 in full PPR: Madison, Ayuk, Mostert, Herbert. Full PPR makes this way more interesting for Ayuk. That's a tough spot, to be honest. I would say, I guess Madison for sure, because he's been you drafted him high. You drafted him to be an RB1 or like at least have RB2 potential for you. He has been an RB1 when he filled in for Dalvin Cook. It's week 1. You drafted him probably the highest of these running backs. Start Alexander Madison. And then probably, I guess at that point, Mostert. Probably Mostert. I mean, I know that Mostert is a walking injury risk, but also he's a walking big play waiting to happen. I mean, I don't want to bench Ayuk. I don't want to bench Khalil Herbert either, but I think you have to go with those running backs. I think you got to go Madison, Mostert. I think you want to start Madison and Mostert. I like those 0 RB targets. In half PPR, tentatively, I am really enticed by James Cook. I am. I'm really interested in James Cook. And I do think he will be the running back that breaks that trend of Bills running, like the Bills backfield being hard to trust. But he's got the toughest matchup of this group, and you do have 2 other, I think, really viable options in Brian Robinson and Khalil Herbert. Brian Robinson should get plenty of work in a game that Washington should handle at home against Arizona. I like Brian Robinson tomorrow. And I liked his passing game usage in the preseason for whatever that's worth, for however much stock you want to put in that. I liked his passing game usage. And then I would probably go Khalil Herbert, only because James Cook is playing the Jets, and that is a difficult defensive front to go up against in a situation where, while we're very optimistic about James Cook and we're buying James Cook, we buy the hype on James Cook, we haven't seen it materialize yet that it's like, oh yeah, that dude is the dude in the backfield. Whereas I think Herbert is that. I think Herbert, if the preseason is any indication, sometimes it's not, but he was on the field for damn near every snap when Justin Fields was also on the field. I would go Robinson and Khalil Herbert. Cook's probably the dude you drafted the highest. And by nature of that beast, I usually favor those guys, but that is a tough matchup against the Jets. Yes, I would stash Isaiah Likely if you can. I mean, sometimes sometimes there are better options on the waiver wire, but as instead of just like guarding against an injury that could happen. But this is a situation where, yeah, Likely is a fine stash, just not at the expense of some of help that you need now. What's going on, Nemo? Good to see you, man. Let me get to Nemo first. He is one of my moderators. But I do see other questions from other folks. I will get to those. I will scroll back up and get to those guys. 3-part question. I got you. Zay Jones, Puka, or Smith and Jigba? Dang. Smith and Jigba feels like the obvious guy here, even though he might be limited coming, in his first game, coming off the procedure to address the fracture in his wrist. We might not see a normal complement of snaps that we expect from Smith and Jigba, but I think he's just better than these other two guys to a point where I think you have to fire him up. I would go Smith and Jigba and just hope for the best. Hope that the talent wins out, right? Just hope that the talent wins out. Between Javonte, Jamal, and Smith and Jigba, I am exercising caution with Javonte Williams tomorrow. I do think that there's reason to be excited. There's reasons to be hype about Javonte Williams and his what appears to be incredible recovery timeline from the injury he suffered last year. It's been awesome. Every report, every vibe around Javonte has been positive. It's awesome. It's great to see. I'm exercising caution with him week 1. 55-45 split, maybe in his favor, but Samaje Perine is going to see the field a lot tomorrow. I can't imagine that we see, 80% of the snaps and touches for Javonte Williams in his first game back from such a significant injury. The Broncos want to be smart. They want to be cautious with him. I got to imagine that he will get no more than 55%-ish of the snaps and touches. So I would go Jamal Williams. You drafted Jamal Williams. Anybody who drafted Jamal Williams, you drafted Jamal Williams for one reason. And it's not because he did really well last year. It's because Alvin Kamara is suspended and Kendre Miller is looking unlikely to play with this injury that has plagued him and forced him to miss practice this week. You drafted Jamal Williams to start him weeks 1 through 3. The matchup sucks tomorrow against Tennessee. They were very good against the run last year, but you drafted Jamal Williams for this reason, for these weeks, to flex and or fire up as your RB2 in the short term. So I would go Jamal Williams. If Andrews is out, I'm fine with Everett as a starter. If Andrews is out, then yes, Everett is a fine flex. In order, I would go Jamal Williams, then Smith and Jigba, then Javonte, and then like either Zay Jones or Everett. I can't fire up Puka tomorrow. I can't do it. I can't do it. All right. I think I got all of that covered. I'm gonna scroll back up. I see where I stopped. Appreciate your patience. I will just reiterate that. If you could just please exercise some patience. I see your question. I will get to it. I'm gonna bounce around a little bit as I see members popping in. I wanna give my paying customers the like the front of the line service that I think they've earned. But I will get to everybody. So I'm just bouncing around here a little bit. With two flexes, well, you're not starting Cup. Cup should be on your IR. I mean, you already started Amon-Ra. I guess you're starting Higgins. I mean, this looks. I'm not sure if you start three receivers. I'm not sure if you start two running backs. I mean, St. Brown was already in your starting lineup. Higgins, Rashad White is fine. Madison is fine. Akers, if that's your flex, I would do Akers over Addison. And if you start three receivers, then I would fire up Addison. You don't need a second quarterback unless it's super flex. You don't need a second quarterback if you have Justin Fields. If it's one quarterback, guy, this goes for everybody. If you only start one quarterback and you've got Mahomes, Allen, Jalen Hurts, Lamar, Fields, Burrow, Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, if you have any one of those dudes, you don't need a second quarterback. Grab another flex eligible player off the wire. But I think you have it right. I think you have it right. Thoughts on Tutu Atwell? Yeah, I mean, look, these are, you always want to look for those good values in the cash games, right? In DFS. And the volume could be in his favor. Right? We expect the Rams to be trailing in that game. Seattle is a notably better team than the Rams on paper. They should have a lead. They should have, by the second half, a double-digit lead, at least a 10-point lead on the Rams. And it could very well be higher earlier. I don't know how much I can endorse Tutu Atwell, though. Even though Devon Witherspoon is not looking likely to suit up, that is a tough matchup. Seattle's got a good secondary, even without Devon Witherspoon. They've got good defensive back play. I think that's a tough spot for an unproven player. I get you want to look for the value. I get you want to look for a guy who's cheap, that could potentially pop. I would probably try to move off of that. I mean, just somebody in that same range. I mean, Darius Slate is Darius. I'm not totally up to speed, Nick, on the on the cost of some of these dudes, but like, is Darius Slayton in that same range? I mean, Darren Waller's picked up the hamstring injury. I mean, it might not be like a 1-for-1 swap, like, unless this is just like the early games or like the late games. I don't know if you're playing are you playing like the full Sunday slate? Because then obviously Darius Slayton could apply. But if you're only playing like the 1 o'clock and or 4 p.m. window, then maybe not. Trying to think of other like guys in that area. I don't know, like a Donovan Peoples-Jones, Mac Hollins. Mac Hollins is listed as a starter for Atlanta tomorrow. There's nothing scary about the Panther. Well, J.C. Horn is scary for the Panther secondary, but he's going to be on Drake London. Like a Mac Hollins, Nick. Maybe somebody like that. Maybe somebody like that. had a decent season for the Raiders last year. I would just, for week 1, give me a proven player. Tutu's unproven. Oh, Nima, my bad. I didn't see that last part. Carr with Olave or Dak with Ferguson. Carr and Olave. If you're purely playing I mean, 1-for-1, Dak over Carr. But if you're playing for the purpose of building the stack, Carr and Olave, not Dak and Ferguson. Yeah, I would take Carr and Olave. Olave, I mean, yeah, Dak, Carr, Olave, Ferguson. Like, big gap, huge gap. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. If somebody offers me a trade week 1 in a redraft league, it's like, go touch some grass. Like, go outside. I'm not interested in moving my guys you know, for some like thing that you're looking for. And I don't mean that as an insult to you guys specifically, but if I'm receiving trades, it's like, get out of here, go away. I want to see my guys before I move anybody. I drafted these dudes for a reason. I had a guy like that. Well, I used to have a guy like that. I don't play with him anymore. But like right after the draft, every time without fail, he was like, I want this dude. And I'd be like, all right, well then why didn't you draft him? Like, I drafted him because I want him. I don't want to turn around and trade him. Like, get out of here. If someone's trying to make trades with you, if somebody is engaging in trade talks with you right after the draft, that means they like your team more than they like their team, and they want to take from your team and add it to their team. Hold the line. Hold the line. Someone off. Well, okay, but this is all right. This is different. This is different when it's like someone wants to take on Cooper Kupp and they're willing to give you Garrett Wilson. I mean, the league might veto that. I would look into that as like, as a commish. I'm a commish of 3 leagues. 3 leagues? 3 leagues. If I saw that trade go down, if I saw somebody get Garrett Wilson for Cooper Kupp, I would immediately be like, this feels fishy. This smells like collusion, to be complete. Like, that's just me, to be completely honest. If the guy believes in Cooper Kupp that much that he wants to give up a bona fide top 10 projected receiver for the season, then I guess that's just their mindset. I don't imagine I can't imagine anybody like seriously thinking that, though. I'm a commish of 3 leagues. If I saw a trade go down where somebody sent Cooper Kupp straight up for Garrett Wilson, I would immediately be like, that just looks like collusion. I'm not accusing you of anything, Christian. I mean, if the person who has Garrett Wilson just loves and believes in Cooper Kupp, that's one thing. But like, I'm just telling you now, the league might interfere on that. Like, the league might step in and be like, what is this? Just saying. If you can get it and nobody cares, great. I feel like people are they're going to find that fishy, though. Is Gibbs? Yes. Is Gibbs going to get more work as the season progresses? The short answer is yes, 100%. He looked good. He looked explosive. They're just working him in. It's his first NFL action. Yes. If you have Jahmyr Gibbs, hold the line and be excited. You just got to be maybe a little patient. That's okay. Fields or Herbert? I mean, the guy that you drafted first. Yeah. Okay. 6-team league. Okay. I mean, the dude you drafted first between the two of them. You're talking about 2 bona fide QB1s. I guess I like Herbert like maybe a little bit more, but I mean, Fields could just run. Fields could run for 120 and a touchdown. That's 4 passing touchdowns. I mean, yards not included, but I mean, yeah, Herbert, I don't know. Herbert probably like feels a little safer. Fields, higher ceiling, maybe lower floor. Yeah. Or yeah, if you believe that one is in a better matchup than the other, then play the one that you feel more comfortable with. That gives you less pause. You're talking about two studs. They should both do really well. Would I start? And yeah, I would. Did I don't know if I said something that threw somebody off, but I would start. Yes, I would start Ridley over Addison. I would start Calvin. Yes, start Calvin Ridley over Jordan Addison. Yes. That's not a scenario where I'm like having some pause. Calvin Ridley's not coming back. Yes, he's coming back from an extended absence, but it's not injury related. He wasn't like he didn't suffer a significant injury that maybe sapped some of his athletic ability. He was away for other reasons. Calvin Ridley, the last time I saw him, I know that it was not a great season in Atlanta, but that dude he's got top 15 upside. The route running is crisp. The talent is on an elite level. He has an ascendingly great quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. If you don't want to crown him yet, that's fine. But I think it's fair to have high expectations for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, yeah, I'm starting Calvin Ridley over somebody like Jordan Addison. How far will your team go? I mean, yeah, see, we can. I mean, these are tough questions to ask at week one. You never know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to get hurt. We don't know who's going to pop off more than we expect. We don't know who's going to underperform more than we expect. Those are good names. Those are talented names. That looks like a pretty good collection of a starting lineup. We'll see, man. We got this played out on the field. We'll see. They're good names. Looks like good. Yeah, it's a good collection of talent that you drafted. We'll see. You put yourself in a good position. That's all you can ask for. You feel it if you walk away from the draft and you're like, I did the best I possibly could given what I could do. That's all you can ask for. Ridley or Madison at the flex. So I need, half PPR, full PPR. That's going to help. Full PPR, Ridley. Half PPR, then I probably go Madison. I'll take a guy who I think has RB1 potential over a guy that I'm hoping in his first game back has really strong wide receiver 2 potential. I will say, though, I would imagine Calvin Ridley has top 15 upside any given week, like I said, but Madison should have RB1 upside at least for week 1, because we've seen him be an RB1 when he filled in for anytime he had to fill in for Dalvin Cook. If it's full PPR, even if it's full PPR, I do think I would. I mean, Ridley gets a bump, but I do think I would still go with Madison. I think he's going to get work. He's going to get he's going to get all the work. The Vikings offensive line is middle of the pack. They're not bad. They're not bad, but they have a good they have a good left tackle in Christian Darrisaw. And Madison put up RB1 numbers in the games when Dalvin Cook was a Viking still, when Cook had to miss a game. If Madison stepped in, I think he put up RB1 numbers like over 2/3 of the time. I would just fire up Madison. Yeah, I would fire up Madison. Nemo, appreciate it. Yes. Likes are appreciated. I will not beg for them, but they are appreciated for algorithm purposes. If you guys like what you see, If you find this helpful in any way, that's great. If you're, if there's any like thoughts about like, if there's any criticism, I can take that too. I suppose. But yeah, if you guys like what you see, the likes are appreciated. I'll leave it at that though. Appreciate it, Nemo. Nick, if you're still in here, I know I was pretty sure that I knew that. What I meant was like guys in that same range as Tutu. Like, are there other like guys that are that cost? I was thinking like maybe a Darius Slayton or a Donovan Peoples-Jones, like somebody else that I just feel like is slightly more proven that I feel a little bit better about to throw into my lineup, my daily lineup. I just don't want to rock with a dude in week 1. I don't want to rock with a dude who's unproven at wide receiver just because he has an opportunity. If that helps. Who are the Raiders? The Raiders are playing the Broncos. They cut Brandon McManus. Who's their kicker now? Forgive me. I'm going to look it up. I am not sure who the Broncos kicker is. It's not McManus. They cut him, right? Oh, that's right. It's Will Lutz. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you should probably start Will Lutz against the Raiders. It's in the Dome, right? It's in Vegas. Conditions are controlled, so there's nothing wrong there. Or no, it's at home. Sorry, the Broncos are at home. Oh, they're at altitude. That ball's going to fly. Will Lutz might get a 50-yarder. Good call, Nemo. Good call, Nemo. If you have Tyler Higbee, going back up a little bit, if you have Tyler Higbee and you're between other like tight end streamer, I mean, Njoku's not a streamer, but I would fire up Higbee this week. I would fire up Higbee for at least the first month of the season. I mean, he might get, that's the dude, him and Van Jefferson, I guess. Those are the guys that if I have to fire in deep leagues, like 14 teams, start 2 flex. Okay, Van Jefferson, fire him up. But like Higbee should be your starter unless you have Hawkinson, Pitts, Goddard, and I guess I'll throw Andrews and Waller in there, even though they are hobbled. If they're active, you have to play them. There's not too many dudes I would probably rank over Tyler Higbee. It might not be great. That Rams offense might stink, but Higbee might see 15 targets. Ton of dinking and dunking. Um, 12-team full PPR between Smith and Jigba and Charbonnet. I don't think the other guys are worth consideration yet, although I do like Chigakonkwo. In full PPR, I guess, I mean, slight edge for me for Charbonnet, I guess, just because Kenneth Walker is expected to play and expected to start, but he is coming into the game with a groin injury designation, like a questionable groin injury, questionable tag designation. He's probably fine. He's going to play through it, but maybe they go easy on him week 1, and this might be a scenario where Charbonnet, even as a rookie, sees a little bit more work than he normally would. And Smith and Jigba might not see his full complement of snaps because of this fracture that he suffered in the preseason. He's been practicing, which is great. He's going to play. I don't know that we can trust the Seahawks to give him what we expect to be a normal full complement of snaps. I would tentatively go Charbonnet among those options of Smith and Jigba, Jaylen Warren, Chigakonkwo. Those other guys I don't think are worthy of consideration just yet. Slight edge to Charbonnet over Smith and Jigba. Do I think Miles Sanders is good? I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but I think Miles Sanders is okay. He's all right. He's not great. He's not terrible. He's okay. And the Carolina Panthers ran the ball pretty well last year, even though they were bad and even though they traded Christian McCaffrey. Even after the fact, Donta Foreman was pretty good running the football last year behind Carolina's offensive line. So from that perspective, there's reason to have still some optimism in Miles Sanders. For me, Miles Sanders put up a career year last year in a loaded offense, and now his personal situation, it just goes way down. It's not going to be as good of an offense. Carolina's going to take their lumps this season with a rookie quarterback. You know, DJ Chark is already hurt. Adam Thielen's already banged up. Jonathan Mingo's interesting, but is he going to have to be a wide receiver 1 as a second-round pick right away? Feels like a lot to ask for. This offense is probably going to struggle to move the ball. Miles Sanders is not going to have the scoring opportunities that he had last year. I don't think he's, I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a hater, but like, call it what it is. I think it's going to have a tougher time this year than he did last year. He's been a guy that has been a fade for me. He's been somebody I've not targeted. He has to fall 15 spots below his ADP for me to want him. Drafts are over at this point, but I'm not crazy about Miles Sanders. I'll eat crow if I'm wrong, but like I'm not crazy about him. I'm not crazy about him. What's happening, Iron? What's happening, Greg? Good to see you guys. Between Najee, Walker, Javonte, and Gibson, I would take the 3 guys not named Javonte Williams, Iron. I'm treading lightly with Javonte Williams week 1. I think the Broncos are going to ease him back in. I don't think they're going to give him anything close to a full complement of snaps and touches. Coming back from the injury, his first game back from the injury last year. And yes, Gibson will split the work as well, but Gibson's not coming into this game coming off of a significant knee injury. Javonte is coming into his game, first game back, coming off a significant knee injury that he suffered less than a year ago. Turnaround is spectacular. The fact that he's available for this game at all is incredible. I'm excited for Javonte potentially having a much better season than I thought he would have this time 2 months ago. I'm still treading lightly with him week 1 if I have viable options. Najee, Walker, Gibson for me. Iron. And then Iron, did you have another question? No, just that one. And then Greg, and then I will go back up to the top again. Just for anybody who's coming in recently, if you think I skipped your question, I am getting to my members first. I'm going to prioritize the member questions first, but then I will go back up to the general public. So if you think I am bouncing around, but I have my spots marked. I will not miss your question. Greg, for half PPR, McCaffrey firing up, ETN firing up, Wilson, Deebo firing up. Between Walker, Dobbins, and Amari Cooper. Dobbins at home against Houston. I mean, he might not. This is another situation where, maybe Dobbins gets his full complement of snaps. But in this matchup, I probably Dobbins. Probably Dobbins, Greg. That's where I would go. In half PPR, I'll take the running back who should have top 15 upside this week. Baltimore should handle Houston. He should get enough opportunities. Dobbins. Remember, Dobbins was Dobbins was playing last year was when Dobbins was recovering from his injury. This year, we think he's healthy. He's presumably healthy. The reason he wasn't practicing and he wasn't participating early on in training camp. He was protecting himself by holding in because he was trying to get more money. It didn't work out that way. So he eventually returned to the field to practice, all that good stuff. I don't think there's any injury concerns for J.K. Dobbins, at least for week 1. I would fire him up in a very beatable matchup at home, Greg. All right. You were offered Josh Jacobs and Odell for Mixon and Mike Williams. Again, I don't really like making trades this early in the season. It's not an unfair offer. You'd be getting the best player, but I would need to, I guess you could do it. I guess you could do it if you want to get the if you're a believer if you want the best player in the deal, then do the trade. I'm not crazy about making trades this early in the season before it's even actually kicked off, but I mean, sure. If you want to complete a trade where you get the best player and you have good enough wide receivers to supplant losing Mike Williams, then sure. That that's fine. Thomas or Mostert? Is that Michael Thomas? I mean, Mostert. The answer is Raheem Mostert. You want to fire up Mostert this week. Jeff Wilson's on IR. Devon Achane is expected to be probably eased in, right? Not going to get a full complement of snaps and touches in his first career game. That might make Salvin Ahmed like the change of pace guy. He might get in there over Achane a little bit. Mostert is the dude who should see the most snaps and touches out of the Dolphins backfield tomorrow. I would go Mostert. And then Iron, if you have Madison, then Madison over Gibson. Madison over Gibson. Absolutely put Javonte on ice for a week. Yeah, Madison over Gibson. For sure. Okay, yeah. Mostert over Michael Thomas. And if you want to put Mostert in over Dameon Pierce for this week, who he has to play Baltimore on the road, like that's fine. That bully tight end build is not working out great so far, Nemo. But the good news is Kelsey could be back as soon as next week. Not a good start, but it's not about how you start. Mike Evans or Brandon Cooks. I mean, Evans. He's a regular starter, and just out of respect of just like I like Brandon Cooks. He's had a really good career. Evans has had a better career. I give the nod to Evans. Sutton is not a start over Jahan Dotson for me if Judy is out. I think Dotson's in line to have a good game tomorrow. Now this one's interesting. James Conner or Javonte Williams. That's fair. I mean, I am being cautious with Javonte, but James Conner is on a terrible offense. And it's not a good matchup. By my rule, like my head tells me start James Conner because again, he's going to be the dude in the Cardinals backfield. He should get 20 touches. You would think Javonte is probably going to have his touches limited, but he's a better player on a better offense. That's a weird cutoff between James Conner and Javonte Williams. Conner is a boring floor play. Javonte is an all or nothing play, if that helps. If you think you can get away with a boring floor play, then James Conner. If you think you need to take a shot on a more talented player, but might not see the field as much, and you're willing to eat a lower floor than Javonte Williams, if that helps. Nemo. I mean, I would probably start I would start Carr for this week because he's at home, Dak's on the road. Kind of what it comes down to for me. I would start Olave and Smith and Jigba as your receivers. I would start Akers, Dobbins, and Jamal Williams as your two running backs and flex. And then Andrews if he can go, or Everett if he can go. Or Andrews if he goes, Everett if Andrews can't go. I think that's what you do. Cousins or Carr? Cousins. Cousins is the guy that's like, for week one, I'll follow like the ADP a little bit in a situation like this. Like Cousins was the guy who people drafted multiple rounds higher than Derek Carr this year. I would go Cousins. I would go Cousins. Deeper collection of talent to throw the football to than Derek Carr has. I would go Cousins over Carr. Yeah, I think you should probably go. I mean, Nemo, I guess you could go Dak over Derek Carr if you don't like it. If you don't like the triple stack, then I understand. You could go Dak over Carr, but you have to start Jamal and you have to start Olave. Between DeAndre Hopkins, which more is that? Which more is that? Is that Elijah Moore? Is that DJ Moore? I assume it might be DJ Moore. If it's DJ Moore, you're sitting Mike Evans. Actually, even if it's Elijah Moore, I think Elijah Moore is going to be a PPR monster out of the flex for the Browns this year. You're starting Hopkins, and if it's DJ Moore, you're starting DJ Moore. Kenneth Walker or Miles Sanders. Not crazy about Sanders this year. They play the Falcons, though, so it's not like a terribly scary matchup. I believe in Walker as a talent a little bit more. That's a toss-up. I'll go slight nod to Walker. He's going to split work with Zach Charbonnet, but I do think he's the better player than Miles Sanders, and Walker's on the better team. Sanders might be in the better situation from the perspective of he should get all of the work, but I think Walker is the better player on the better team. And that's where I think I'm leaning. Nemo, is Washington available? Is that Washington defense still available? If not, Jacksonville is playing Indianapolis. Yeah. Is that on the road? It makes it a little dicier for me. Are the Jags at home or are they on the road? They're on the road. I don't love that as much, but I get it. I understand wanting to chase that targeting that Indianapolis offense and, which is full of unknowns. I get it. I'm a little more nervous, Nemo, about starting a non-bona fide stud defense on the road week one, if that makes sense. I think I would prefer the Seahawks. Okay. I see. Yeah, okay, got Steinberg. I would lean the Seahawks. The Rams are not going to be good. They're without Cooper Kupp. They're at home. They actually have they have the better situation. I almost said they have expectations. I was thinking about the Colts. Of course, the Jags also have actual expectations, but they're on the road. I would feel a little more leery about them. Give me a Give me a defense, unless that defense is a bona fide stud unit that you know that you can rely on week in and week out, and there's only a handful of them. I don't want to start a defense on the road. Call it a weird stigma. Give me Seattle at home. The Rams are not going to be good. Slight edge. Yeah, slight edge for me for Charbonnet over Smith and Jigba. I think both Seahawks running backs should be fine tomorrow, but Walker is the vet with actual experience. Well, he's not a vet; he's a second-year player, but he's a vet compared to Zach Charbonnet, so he should get most of the work. But I think Charbonnet mixes in a little bit more than your average rookie if Walker is actually coming into this game like hurting a little bit from that groin injury. Nemo, I think you can release Kincaid if you have to. I mean, I would prefer to fire up Everett. If you can't IR Andrews, then you're gonna I would just release Kincaid. I mean, or if you don't want to release Kincaid, then you got to release Everett. Like, I would just pick the guy that you prefer. I kind of like Everett this week because he's the veteran. Kincaid's got a little bit more long-term appeal, but Everett is the guy that I would want to start this week. And Iron, I got to that. Yeah, Madison over Gibson. For the let me just make sure I got my members caught up first, and then I will get to the other questions. Appreciate everybody's patience and everybody coming in and hanging out today. Again, I will be live tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. I intend to get to every question tonight before we wrap this up. But if you come in late or you have a question late, and I try to get to all of them. I don't try to miss anybody. But if I do, 11 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, another start sit ahead of week one. Greg, for these tight ends, Okonkwo, Schultz, Everett. Now, for me, it's in this situation, I like Okonkwo. Second in yards per route run last year, behind only Travis Kelce. I do think he's a really good talent, an emerging talent. I think the DeAndre Hopkins signing helps him. Give me Okonkwo. And the Titans should have to throw tomorrow. I would imagine the Saints win that game. Titans are a smash mouth. They want to run the football, but I think they're going to have to throw a little bit more tomorrow. I think they'll be trailing. Pick two for the flex between Sutton, Michael Thomas, Cooks, Addison, and Hopkins. Those last two names. Give me Hopkins. Give me Addison. I'm going to trust DeAndre Hopkins until I see physically with my own two eyes a reason not to. If DeAndre Hopkins is on the field, I'm firing him up. And then I like Jordan Addison. I think he's gonna, I think there's certainly some risk playing a rookie in his first game, but first round wide receiver, he should be a starter for this Vikings offense that expects to move the football with at least moderate success. It should be an offense that can score points again in Minnesota. Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, they're going to draw plenty of attention. Addison should have single coverage damn near every play. And he's a first round pick. I would go Addison. Hopkins and Addison there. You can grab Trey Palmer for sure if you're playing Dynasty. I also grabbed Raheem Jarrett. Charlie Jones was drafted for me. We have deep dynasty rosters. We roster 30 players a person, a manager. So Charlie Jones was drafted, or he might have been like a priority waiver ad after the draft. That was back in like May. Yep, Palmer was a pickup for Dynasty. in recent weeks, and I also grabbed Raheem Jarrett just in case. So yeah. You're not starting Everett over Mark Andrews if Mark Andrews is active. You kind of just got to grin and bear it with a guy like Mark Andrews. If he is active, you have to play him. You have to. And yes, Iron, we were not able to. I feel terribly about it. Unfortunately, we lost a few memberships in the transition to this year. I'm hopeful that we find other folks down the line who feel that this channel is interesting enough to them where they might be wanting to support it. One of the benefits of being a member, it's we're past the point of no return at this point, but one of the benefits of being a member of this channel is I will set up leagues for us to play in. So we did it last year. It was a lot of fun. We lost some members over the course of a transition for any new folks here over the course of the off season. So we were not able to get one off the ground this year. I'm hoping we can change that for 2024. We will see. You need one for your flex between Pierce, Dotson, and Pickens. I mean, Pierce has some downside, but I would still go him over. Pierce has some downside because it's a tough matchup, but I would still go him over Dotson and Pickens. I mean, the volume should be there for Dameon Pierce. I'm picking 4 for full PPR. All right, let's get it. Well, Jefferson's in your lineup every single week. He's in your lineup every single week. Yeah, those first 4. Keenan Allen, Jordan Addison, Michael Pittman. I mean, you can't start Tank Dell. Adam Thielen is like a shell of himself at this point and on the injury report. Yeah, those first 4 names: Jefferson, Keenan Allen, Addison, Pittman. Yeah. As far as the best bench stash, Greg, if that's a 1 quarterback league, you don't need Russell Wilson. I mean, the best stash is Deion Jackson. The best, because he could help you tomorrow, and he in theory could help you for the entire season. Jonathan Taylor might not play for the Colts again. Probably won't play for the Colts again. And I think if he's healthy, if he's actually healthy week 5, the chances of him getting traded will go up. They will get stronger. Worst case scenario for Deion Jackson is that Jonathan Taylor is healthy enough to play. The Colts don't trade him, and he shows up week 11 because he wants the last year of his rookie contract to count so that he can get to free agency next year. That's the worst case scenario for Deion Jackson. But for a guy like Deion Jackson, we'll worry about week 11 when we get to week 11. Not worried about that right now. For me, like, it's kind of easily between those guys, especially with Javonte Williams's seemingly really fast return from the knee injury. That makes Samaje Perine less valuable. I mean, the guy right now is Deion Jackson. Evan Hull is interesting too for Indianapolis, but I mean, if you have a piece of that Colts backfield that should contribute, which is essentially Jackson and or Hull, that's the stash. That's the bench stash that you want. Yeah, that's the stash that you want. I see a couple other questions, and I will answer those. Just wanted to let everybody know, probably will be turning this down in the next 10 minutes when we get to the top of the hour, 8:00 Eastern for folks on the East Coast. But appreciate you guys. Want to thank everybody for coming in today and hanging out, asking your questions. I will do this every Saturday and Sunday that I can. Saturdays, 6 p.m. Eastern for Start Sit Help each week. Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern. Right here on this channel, taking you up as close to kickoff as we need to go to get you guys the help that you need or the advice that you're looking for your lineups. Members will get first crack at it. If I see member questions, I will get to them first, and I will call them out so that they know that I'm talking with them specifically. I will get to the general public second. If you think I may have skipped your question, I haven't. So I just appreciate your patience. If you want your question prioritized, and in general, if you like what you see from the channel, consider becoming a member. That, again, one more time, will include playing fantasy with the other members of this channel. We will have to wait for the 2024 season, but there are other perks as well, which will include shout outs in the chat so that I'm speaking with you guys specifically. If not, that's okay. I would just ask for your patience. And then we also have the Discord, second link in the description of this video. You can join the Discord. It is free. Again, members will get a little bit more attention in the Discord, but happy to try to help out when I am available, when I'm able to jump in there. All right, couple more questions I see. What am I doing at my RB2 spot and my flex spot between Najee, Montgomery, and Gibbs? I mean, it's going to be a week-to-week basis, right? We need to see that Najee is good enough to hold off Jaylen Warren from getting more work in that backfield. TBD if that's going to happen. But for right now, I mean, you obviously are starting Najee. If you didn't start one of Montgomery or Gibbs, so you're obviously starting Najee this week if you didn't. But, I mean, moving forward, I mean, the Lions backfield might be a little difficult to predict, but I would say you don't want to break that group up. You want to hang on to both of those guys. I mean, week 2, the Lions are at home against the Seahawks. In theory, you would want to start Montgomery in that game. In theory, but it could also be the week that we see Gibbs get a little bit more work and maybe make a couple bigger plays at home. You have good running back depth. I wouldn't do anything with it just yet. Let it ride. Let it play out. Let's see who emerges in the first couple weeks of the season. And then between Charbonnet or Flowers, Zay Flowers is interesting, man. I mean, Zay Flowers is interesting because Mark Andrews is hobbled, or we expect him to. He's been limited in practice, right? We don't think he's going to be 100% tomorrow. Zay Flowers is interesting. Floor play is Charbonnet, ceiling play is Zay Flowers, but Zay Flowers probably has, if you're willing to roll the dice on a potentially lower floor, Charbonnet probably has a lower floor than Flowers, but he might have a higher ceiling. I would consider one of those guys. I mean, Breece Hall is the best guy of those three, obviously, but we might not see, he might not yield great results on Monday night. I would think that for at least week 1, Dalvin Cook's taken most of those touches. Nemo, thanks for stopping in. We'll talk. We can talk shop. We can talk shop, man. We can certainly talk shop. Javonte Smith and Jigba or Antonio Gibson. It's a drop-off, but I would probably favor Gibson here. He's healthy. I think it's a great matchup against Arizona. I think both Washington running backs are good plays this week. I love Javonte for the season. The turnaround has been great. The expectations are legit. They're real. We think Javonte's made a miraculous recovery from the significant injury he suffered last year. But I'm proceeding with caution with Javonte Williams week 1. And then Smith and Jigba, same deal. Fractured wrist. He's fine. He's practicing. That's great. That's awesome. Is he going to be a little bit limited week 1? I would probably go Antonio Gibson, even though he is himself is in a timeshare with Brian Robinson. I mean, he's got the it's so weird to say this because he's so much more talented than J.D. McKissic, but Antonio Gibson has the J.D. McKissic role this year. He should catch a lot of passes. At least for week one, I think I lean Gibson, even though make no mistake, there is a talent drop-off there. You prefer Javonte Williams in a vacuum, but I'm proceeding with some caution with him for week one. In full PPR between Jamal Williams and Jahan Dotson. I mean, again, I think this is a week that you have to fire up, even though it's not a great matchup. You got to fire up Jamal Williams. I think you have to fire up Jamal Williams. Kamara is suspended. He will not be there tomorrow. Kendre Miller is probably not going to play. He hasn't practiced all week. Jamal Williams is going to get 20-plus opportunities tomorrow. Jamal Williams. You drafted Jamal Williams for this very reason, for weeks 1 to 3. Steven Drakes, thank you so much, man. I appreciate the super. Appreciate the super very much. That's very kind of you. I will mention, for folks who maybe you're not interested in becoming a member, but if you are kind enough, if you are feeling kind enough to share a super, I will take your question out of turn. And it moves to the front. My top 3 tight end plays this week in both DFS and fantasy. All right. Okay. Fair enough. We can make this happen. I mean, straight up in fantasy, in just straight up redraft leagues, it's got to be Hawkinson. I would say Tyler Higbee, honestly. And I would also throw Dallas Goedert in there. Obviously, it would normally be Mark Andrews, but he's coming into this game limited. He's coming into this game nursing an injury, something that has been going on since before this week. So he's probably operating at less than 100%. So I can't put him on this list. I can't put for either DFS or just straight up, season-long leagues. I can't put him on this list. He's normally going to be tight end 1 when there are, if Travis Kelce doesn't play like he did on Thursday night, but it's hard to put him there right now. Certainly not in DFS. I think that's a tough sell. I would say Hawkinson, I would say Higbee, and then I would say Dallas Goedert. As far as DFS, I will admit I don't play DFS a ton, but I will dabble here and there. Let me see. I got to look at the cash values and who I like, and who I like from who's available. I can tell you right now, I probably will be in on I got to update the stupid app. I will stay on this. I probably am going to like Chigakonkwo if he's not too expensive. I think there's good value there. Remember, Treylon Burks did return from the injury that he suffered during training camp. He is back at practicing in full, all that good stuff. We have to treat, in these scenarios, I like treating week 1 like a warm-up, right? Teams barely play in the preseason anymore. I got to imagine some teams treat week 1 kind of like they're getting their feet wet, their sea legs under them, whatever phrase you want to use. To that point, do they ease Treylon Burks in and not overload him in his first game back since suffering the injury? DeAndre Hopkins, the obvious beneficiary here for potential more work. I think Chigakonkwo is as well. I got to double check what he's going to cost, but let me see. Let me see. All right. Let me check this. All right. Let me take a look at these. At least I'm looking at FanDuel right now for what it's worth. Taysom Hill 6. That's a lot. Tyler Higbee at 5,300. Steven, I didn't realize Higbee was that low. Tyler Higbee at 5,300. I would say he's a great play. Chigakonkwa, I like at 5,100. That's not too much for me. I would say Higbee at 53. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's probably the guy. That I would roll the dice with. The problem with that, Steven, is Higbee's probably going to be in a lot of lineups, but there might be significant volume there in a way that is just difficult to shy away from. I kind of like Higbee there. That's a pretty good value. I have him as a top 3 option for this week. And now, at least on FanDuel, Steven, Higbee, I like him to have a top 3 week, and he's the 11th. He's 11th, tied for 11th in cost. I would say Higbee is that guy for me. He probably is going to be in a lot of lineups, but I mean, that's a really strong value. Another guy, if you want to punt, like that's real cheap, that could pay some dividends. Luke Musgrave is only 4,500. I know he's a rookie. Rookie tight ends are real dicey, but I mean, if it's any indicator, I mean, Sam Laporta had a nice day on Thursday night against the Chiefs. Musgrave is priced at 4,500 on FanDuel. Christian Watson is out. Romeo Doubs is dealing with a hamstring injury. Might be some decent volume for Luke Musgrave on Sunday relative to expectations. So I'll say for me, Steven, and thank you again for the super. Very kind of you. Straight up season-long leagues, I'm going Hawkinson 1. I mean, if Andrews plays, he's the pseudo 1, but he's a tough guy to trust given the situation. I'll say Hawkinson, Higbee, Goddard. In DFS, your cash plays, I'll say Higbee, Chigakonkwo, and my punt would be Luke Musgrave. No Christian Watson for the Packers. Romeo Doubs questionable with a hamstring injury. Sam Laporta had a nice night, just like comparing rookie tight ends that were drafted really close to each other. Musgrave is an interesting punt at the position. Hopefully that helps. Good luck on the cash contests. Good luck on the DFS plays. It's not something that I admittedly wouldn't consider myself an expert in it, but I'm happy to look at the values and the prices and tell you what I think. Happy to look at the prices to tell you what I think are the values, what I think I would do. Higbee looks good. Okonkwo looks okay. If you want to punt even further and save a little bit more cash to put more money in a stud at another position, Musgrave could be in a decent spot. Thank you again for the super. Much appreciated. If you have any more questions, let me know. Jamal or Javonte? Jamal, I want, these are the weeks why you drafted Jamal Williams, right? Weeks 1, weeks 2, weeks 3. Week 1, week 2, week 3, excuse me. Kamara, suspended. Kendre Miller hasn't practiced all week. He's probably not going to play. Jamal Williams, full complement of snaps and touches on deck for him. Khalil Herbert or George, wait, really? I mean, James Robinson's not signed to a team. Do you mean James Cook? I mean, for me, it would be Khalil Herbert. If it's James Cook, I'm hoping that's James Cook. James Cook was drafted ahead of Khalil Herbert, but it's a tough matchup, and we haven't seen James Cook, necessarily. There's been more uncertainty in that Bills backfield than in most other backfields across the NFL over the past couple of years. During the preseason, take it with a grain of salt, whatever you want to do, take it for what it's worth. Herbert was on the field damn near every snap that Justin Fields was on the field. I'm going to chase that for at least week 1. Khalil Herbert, DJ Moore, or Christian Kirk? I mean, let me see. In full PPR, Probably DJ Moore. Probably DJ Moore. I know he's going up against Jair Alexander, but also in 2 previous matchups against Jair Alexander, DJ Moore had 2 really good games. Really good games, not average games. Not like, oh, 5 catches for 75 yards. Nice. Like, no, like over 100 yards each time and scored each time. I think DJ Moore, I'm taking, yeah. I think you got to fire up DJ Moore. And then are Waller and Judy playing? Look, we're going to have to wait and see about injury reports. I would not feel good about Judy. Judy is not a guy I'm starting. And honestly, at this point, I'm probably preparing to pivot off of Waller, pick up a backup tight end. If we get news about Waller before the start of the 4 o'clock games, Gerald Everett is a trendy pickup. If we find out that Waller is ruled out, earlier than expected, pick up Gerald Everett before the Chargers game in the 4 o'clock window. I think it's 4:25. If not, hold, pick up, you can pick up Jake Ferguson. You could even, I wouldn't, it's hard to vouch for Daniel Bellinger, but you could pick him up if you want the direct backup. I would probably prefer Jake Ferguson. You could also pick up Ty Conklin, who's playing in the Monday night game against the Bills. Conklin, again, if we're chasing, at least for week 1, preseason usage and snaps, Ty Conklin was the guy on the tight end on the field for every snap when Aaron Rodgers was on the field. So at the very least, you have some viable starters that you could pivot to in the nightcaps if Waller is ruled out like later than expected. But we're not going to know that until closer to kickoff. Happy to help, Eric. That's going to do it for me tonight. I do have to shut this down, but I appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out for a couple hours this evening. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have more questions, if anything else pops up, I am available tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern on this channel. Once again, I will be taking your questions, but I do have to shut this down for now. Appreciate you guys coming in. Thank you guys for hanging out. Have a great rest of your evening. I will see you tomorrow ahead of